from there, it's been awesome. I started to bet on Buffalo. I said, you know what, let me stay. I had to ask my mom first, you know. So I said, let me stay. And from there, you know, I started my company, the Apple Tree Agency. I'm passionate about education, passionate about technology, and one of the space that I wanted to move in was mobile learning, where we have brick and mortar, we have online, but we have nothing that's really dedicated to mobile learning. So I got a co-founder, and we said, hey, let's start our business, and it's called Graspy. We're about to start the prototypes in May 1st, and it's truly innovative education. So we wanted GRASP, so grasp onto learning, and IE for innovative education. The medical campus specifically provides resources. It provides a place for you can so you can be around other entrepreneurs. One of the biggest things since I've been there, 43 North came to the space, and to be around entrepreneurs who are already, you know, steps ahead of you, it's like, hey, I'm seeing it, you know. So it's not a dream that it's not attainable, but I can just walk out and say, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? You know, and for somebody like me or any other entrepreneur who's new to it, it's exciting. You know, it's something that we can look at and say, hey, you know what? Give me about 8 months, I'll be where you're at. You know, and that's truly what the medical campus, what Buffalo has done. You know, my mom still says, hey, come home, you know, mostly because she won't come to Buffalo because of the snow, you know, but it's amazing, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm actually glad to call myself a Buffalo transplant. So
There you go.
She should come in the summer where it's really beautiful. Buffalo summers are amazing, right?
We've had a great winter. Everybody from Buffalo would agree with me, right? I don't know where this cold weather came from. I'm really sorry about it. It's been great. Secretary, do you have any questions for us? I mean, certainly I'd like to give you that opportunity.
Well, I guess I want to return the favor in a way and ask all of you, so what do you see the challenges as? And what are the best ways of overcoming them? You know, in my campaign over the past year, have said I want to tear down all the barriers that stand in the way of people getting ahead and staying ahead. And there are a lot of institutional barriers, and there also are a lot of just out-of-date, conventional thinking barriers about what is or isn't possible in certain places with certain people. And I just think we have to throw all that out and really start from asking ourselves, what do we want to achieve, which is what happened here, and what are the assets we can bring already, and what do we need to develop, and how do we collaborate, which I think is the mayor's key word, so that we don't get, you know, torn apart or discouraged in the face of inevitable challenges and setbacks. That's just life. But I'd love, maybe start with you, Bill. I'd love to know, so what do you see the next steps as? What do you see the challenges as? Now, clearly, you know, if I were fortunate enough to be president, I would have a much heftier research agenda. I want to get back to where there's not even a close second. You know, we've been frankly eroding our research advantage, and that is going to be just literally the underpinnings of so much that we can accomplish, and it needs to be a public-private partnership. But I also was happy when I asked Dr. Siddiqui, with a lot of the innovation you're doing here, I hope that you've worked out ways to have those businesses, those patents, you know, be part of the growth strategy for the whole campus, because I think a lot of great research has gotten spun off, which has worked in the past. Sure. But I'm not so sure that it's the best model now, because you want to reinvest in what made it possible in the first place. So I would love to hear what you see as some of the next steps and some of the challenges.
Well, you answered the question for me. It's research. It's getting the support, right? But I think a great example, the Jacobs Institute exists because we too often great discoveries have left this community because we didn't have the infrastructure, in place to support that. We do now have that. We have investors. We have a wide pool of patients, obviously. We have great clinicians, great researchers. We have the money. We have the infrastructure. I think we're in a great position. We just need to know that the government is going to continue to support and advance the research, the good research that's happening. We will keep discoveries here in Western New York. We are recruiting great clinicians. People want to come to Buffalo now. We just need to know that the support is going to be there because, as you know, making these discoveries are difficult. Candace?
So I have to, I'd have knives thrown at me if I didn't sort of parrot what you said. Research, it's just music to my ears, and you know this. The thing that worries me so much is that, we've had to be more innovative about getting money in to fund our research. We're doing a lot more business development things, which is really good because you're collaborating. We're trying to develop more entrepreneurial activities to bring more dollars in for science. But the fact remains is that investigators, clinicians, they have to get federal funding. It's the mark of your peer-reviewed process. And so to have such limited funds available, these innovative students that are sitting behind us, they may leave science or medicine and go into other avenues because it's very challenging. So I know that about you, but we really need to turn this country around because other countries are going to go past us.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's one of the challenges I see, that if the federal government doesn't appreciate the role that federal dollars in research plays in job creation and in new discoveries that transfer into technology and devices that can then be exported, and we just can see a very clear line between those research dollars and the outcomes. And it was a great setback when the Congress did an across-the-board sequester of money. Because what you're saying, Candace, actually happened. We had labs closing, and who was asked to leave? It was the younger investigators, the younger scientists and researchers. Their labs were shut down. They were let go. And, it's just so counterproductive. And you come to a place like this, and you can see the patient, deliberate planning and finding resources wherever you could from private and philanthropic sources as well as government, particularly the federal government. That's the combination that actually works. And, I am a great believer that our best years can be ahead of us in our country if we have not just the confidence and optimism and recognize what lies ahead if we pull together and collaborate, but also if we tend to the steps necessary to get us there. And there's no substitute for that research. And you're right too that other countries, the global economic slowdown has to some extent slowed down some of the most ambitious plans, like Singapore to turn itself into the life science capital of the world. But we should not be lulled, because if the economy does pick back up and lots of countries once again have those resources, they're going to keep coming at us when it comes to research, and particularly in the life sciences broadly interpreted. So we got to stay ahead of this, because I think now, Norma, there's 12,000 jobs on the campus, right? And 100 businesses that have been catalyzed by what's going on here. And that's a huge accomplishment. So we've got to keep building that and seeing how many more jobs, how many more businesses, how many more spin-offs can be created here in Buffalo that have a big impact in Western New York. And you said something earlier about cross-border cooperation with Toronto, which is also making investments in research, and how we can both collaborate but also compete effectively, I think is important.
Derek?
Well, for me, being a young entrepreneur, I guess I would say support for minority and women-owned businesses. If you look at it, the playing field isn't quite leveled. And here in Buffalo, again, I bet on Buffalo, and I'm going to stay here and build up my business here. But at the same time, I want to make sure that everything that happens, we're supported. And it's needed, because especially in the tech field. If you look at minorities starting tech companies, the percentage is not that high. And then if you even transfer that to women, it's the same way. So I would love to see more support in increasing resources increases in funding, and that would definitely open the door for a lot of people, a lot of people. And I work with some young kids as well too. So when they even hear that I'm doing something in tech, the first thing is, really? We can do that? And what do you mean we can do that? Of course we can. You have to align yourself with people who, organizations that can help you, so that's my thing.
You are 100% right, and in every one of my speeches, as the press who have to follow me around can tell you, I always talk about small businesses because that's where up to 75% of the new jobs will come from, and minority and women-owned small business, and particularly within those categories, young people being able to start and grow their business has to be a focus of a lot more attention and resources and mentoring and innovation centers like the one here, so that, as you rightly say, you can walk out of your office, talk to somebody and ask for advice and get a real good hint about what you need to be doing. And we have fallen behind in small business formation in our country over the last decade for a lot of reasons. Some of it the Great Recession, because just like with the scientists, the first people not to get funded are minority, women-owned, and young people who want to do startups, who want to become entrepreneurs. We've got to reverse that, because most great discoveries and most great businesses really start from people beginning young like you are, and having the support to really keep going and understand what you have to create. And I think we know venture capital does not come forth for minority and women-owned businesses. We don't have the credit. Maybe that's one of the other challenges, is how here in Buffalo you could look at some creative credit mechanisms that would be aimed at young people, minority, and women-owned small businesses, because I do believe that's a niche that we've got to pay more attention to. Right now we're not doing as much as we should, and I think there are a lot of great ideas that could come to the forefront. And the other point I wanted to make too, when you said you worked with young people, thank you for that. One possible additional innovative program is how to do more with junior high and high school kids in Buffalo, how to run maybe some computer coding camps or academies that would be looking for smart, innovative kids, whether or not their grades were particularly good. Maybe they spent a lot of time playing video games, but actually that might put them in a pretty good position to take advantage of a computer coding academy, and really try to link a lot of the STEM work that's done here at the campus with the high schools and junior highs, and do more to really single out or identify kids who take advantage of that.
Secretary, it's funny, we've had over 700 kids last year. I don't know if there's anybody from the JI that can verify that, maybe Karen, Dr. Siddiqui. Over 700 kids come through to do just that. Merritt, comment on the challenges?
First of all, I want to just commend Secretary Clinton for her focus on minority and women-owned businesses and small businesses, critically important to moving this country forward. And I want to thank Derek for raising that question. In Buffalo, we have certainly worked hard to build a city of opportunity for all people. One of the things that the medical campus and the city have done together, Secretary Clinton, Matt mentioned the Ellicott Goodrich Garage that the city and the medical campus have negotiated a long-term lease on. One element of that long-term lease is a community benefits agreement that focuses on the participation of minority and women-owned businesses, minority and female workers, and city residents. So the medical campus, the business leaders in this community are supporting that. That's critically important. And I guess I should be exclusively focusing my time to talk about barriers, since we are at the medical campus, on scientific things. But I do want to say, you are someone your entire career that has been breaking down barriers for other people. I want to thank you for that. As a mayor, I think it's important to have more investment in public infrastructure. And we have seen with infrastructure resources and investments that we have made that there is a multiplier effect in the private sector